sort through this a little bit with the help of Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, as we got all the dialogue there, back and forth. Whole lot of reading, I'm sure, for Mike Florio yesterday, who joins us now. All right, let me start with, did Brady's side want this all sealed, that he didn't want any of this information out there in the first place as part of what his settlement offer was with the NFL, Mike?
I don't know the terms of the settlement offer, but in the transcript itself, Dan, Jeffrey Kessler, who represented Brady in the NFLPA, asked halfway through the hearing to have the transcript immediately released to the public, that the public has a significant interest in this and it should be released, and the NFL declined, relying upon the prior agreement between the two sides that the transcript wouldn't be released. So at some point in this process, Brady's lawyer wanted this all out there, and there's plenty of reasons when you read the thing to understand why they would want to expose some of the inner workings of this case to the public.
What stood out?
Well, a lot of things stood out, and, you know, the one big takeaway, no one's mind's going to change about this. Everyone's locked in. It's red state, blue state. You're just looking at what you want to look at to reinforce the opinion that you already have regarding whether or not Tom Brady and the Patriots cheated. The one thing, though, and I just posted this at ProFootballTalk.com a few minutes ago, it's now clear that no one with the league office who was involved in this initially had any idea. And this is a little astounding for anyone who's had to put air in their tires after the car sat outside in the wintertime. They had no idea that if you take a football inflated at 12.5 PSI, the minimum level allowed, and you play out in the cold with it, it's going to drop under 12.5. So when all the numbers started to come in at halftime under 12.5, the presumption was tampering. There's no other explanation because they're not aware of the fairly basic scientific principle that air is going to shrink in the cold and it's going to expand when it's warm. And so the jumping off point for the league wasn't, we need an explanation for this. The jumping off point was, we need to prove the Patriots cheated.
All right. Are we headed towards a settlement here?
Yeah, I think that the judge has made it clear now on multiple occasions to the two sides that they're going to settle the case. And there's two settlement conferences coming up with the judge. I practiced law for 18 years, Dan, and I never had a judge be that aggressive that early in a case, making it clear that there's going to be multiple avenues and opportunities to settle. And when he gets Roger Goodell in chambers and starts asking him a bunch of questions that make him squirm, and when he separately gets Tom Brady in chambers asking him a bunch of questions that makes him squirm, and there's enough there to make both guys squirm. That's the way you put pressure on the two sides to bridge whatever gap there is in their positions and get this thing done. The question is, does one side have to be squeezed a little bit more than the other? And that's going to be determined by what the judge thinks is the fair outcome. The judge may think a fair outcome here is no suspension, a fine, no admission of responsibility, and everybody moves on. And frankly, if I was the one trying to work this out, that's what I'd be trying to push the two sides to. 4-game fine, no suspension, no admission of any type of guilt, and everybody moves forward, and Tom Brady plays September 10 against the Steelers.
Yeah, but how's the NFL look after that?
Well, it's one thing if the NFL does it on their own, right? It's another thing if it's the result of a settlement that was essentially forced on them by a judge. And, you know, what you say to the NFL, if you're Judge Berman, okay, you can either take a 4-game fine and no suspension, or you can take a no-game fine and no suspension. It's up to you. Force me to rule, and you lose. So take the deal, and at least you have something. Because even if Tom Brady doesn't admit responsibility, if he's paying the 4-game fine, the people out there who believe he cheated are still going to believe he cheated. I mean, the fact that he's given up what would be $1.8 million if it's a 4-game fine, that's going to speak volumes, regardless of whether or not there's an admission of any type of responsibility. And maybe he'll admit that he didn't cooperate as much as he could have or should have, because that's one of the things that's still kind of goofy about all this. I don't know why he drew such an unreasonable line in the sand. There's a way to work this out where you can give the investigator the information that he needs. So, you know, there's enough mud to go around here, which I think makes the judge even more determined to get both sides into his courtroom, explain to them how they screwed this thing up, and then try to get them to come up with a solution.
What was the, I guess, the most revealing or funniest part of the testimony that you read? Did you have one of those moments?
Oh, well, you know, it reinforces the idea that rich and famous people get free stuff. Tom Brady never pays for a phone. The last guy who would be unable to afford to buy his own phone gets free phones. One new phone, you get a new phone. I mean, now we know why Jameis Winston walked into that Publix thinking he's going to get free crab legs. If you're a star, you get whatever you want. When Tom Brady goes shopping, did he just take the cart, fill it up, walk out, and wave? It's amazing. The more money someone has, the less stuff they have to pay for. It's a strange, weird formula that applies to life. So that made me laugh when I saw that he never pays for a phone.
Don't be bitter, Mike.
Oh, I'm not bitter. I just aspire to get to the point where I don't have to pay for a phone. Now that I know that this is out there.
But this is the high school quarterback.
Well, I got a long way to go before I can get free phones like Tom Brady.
Mike, this is the high school quarterback. Like he's the ultimate high school quarterback, gets the cheerleader, has the nice car, has the nice hair. I mean, he's got it all.
Hey, Dan, and this is why it went off the rails for Tom Brady early on. The emperor had no clothes. There was no one in position to tell him, Tom, you're making a huge mistake here not giving up this phone. Nobody wants to offend #Tommy, and he needed someone telling him back in February and March, Tom, you have got to give up the phone. There was a little thing that bubbled up earlier this week where I was getting the impression that maybe Tom Brady was going to try to finagle it, that he didn't have to go to court next Wednesday, that he could do it by phone. Fortunately, somebody got to him and said, Tom, no. The rules apply to you. You have to show up in court. You can't do this by phone. But, when you live that life for 15 years plus, I guess you get to a point where you think you can do whatever you want.
No truth to the rumor Brady tried to send Jimmy Garoppolo to court for him, right?
Yeah. There's got to be somebody out there who looks like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Couldn't you do that? Just get an imposter.
Ryan Gosling we're going to send instead of Tom Brady. All right. Well, thank you, Mike.
All right. Let's see. Buddy.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. Pro Football Talk on NBCSN returns next week. Rodney Harrison, full-time member of the show. Rodney and Mike debating topics with Paul Burmeister as the traffic cop there on NBCSN.